All right, so back with the price tag of leadership and key areas that set you apart as a leader. And so here's the thing. When you're looking at these things, you're always thinking, okay, so how am I going to keep my cards close? How am I going to get this going? How am I going to get that going? Well, here's the reality of it. You got two options. You're either going to pay now or play later, or play now and pay later, which is sounding very, very simple. But here's the problem. When you're actually thinking about this, no matter which way a person looks, at this point in life, a payment will be demanded. You see, it doesn't matter, you know, what has happened or what you think's going to happen. You got basically two options. Figure it out now, and whatever you're going to pay later is going to be less interest. So if you're younger, it's going to be, well, here's the reality. If you play a lot more now, the interest is going to be a lot more significant. Because a person might be older, you might think, oh, well, the odds are against them. But here's the actual reality of it. They got a lot more life experience. They could probably streamline a lot more things together a lot faster, more efficiently, more proactively, in the sense of the interest could be a lot less if they were to just adjust things maybe even now, thinking that the game's over, but really it isn't. Um, it's just the way how it kind of works in certain arenas. So this would include pay now and do the work that is required to be done is one thing, since playing later will be that of much more enjoyable. So when you're actually looking at whatever is around you and you're thinking, I'm going to put the distractions away, I'm going to actually do this. And we've heard this all over the time. But here's the problem. Even for myself, I find I get very distracted very quickly when I try and do something and I'm starting to go into these rabbit trails. But here's the reality of it. The rabbit trails aren't going to save you as long as you have a plan, some type of execution mechanism that is actually worthwhile. You're going to be able to actually figure out exactly what is going to be coming your way and how and when and where and why and what it is. See, it's never the big things that'll take you out, it's the small things that'll take you out. So just a matter of fact, having a couple of small interruptions throughout your day, that would be probably detrimental to me if I was actually on a course, on a really good rhythm, on doing whatever that might be. So when you're looking at things and you're thinking, okay, I got this, and then all of a sudden you know, tail and run, it's going to be very costly. So just to try and, so you can either play now or you can work now, because playing now and paying later will have more than just a regular price tag. Take advantage of the ability to work not but playing now will require a workload that is much more demanding in the later years, meaning that if you're going to try and think that you're going to escape, it's not going to happen. In fact, right now is probably the only time in probably human history where everything's been leveled as far as even keeled. Okay, so what does that mean? That means basically what's happening is that there's opportunities out there that have never been really given to people before, but because of the way how our culture and society has actually kind of allowed us to be somewhat on the, let's say, active side of things, that also drives our ambition, our motivation, our discipline, and determination, which basically allows us to say we might have the most readily available resources available to us ever, but we're actually not in a place to fully utilize and execute them. So just something in the hindsight of trying to figure out exactly what does this look like? How does this come through? Why is this going through this way? Okay, so I'm going to jump to the next one here. So become a character driven individual instead of an emotional driven character driven individual. And what does this mean? Well, see, most of the things that were done out of inconvenience, meaning people that were sick or that were already saying, I'm already too busy, I don't have time for this, this is just not going to work. You see, so when you're a character driven person, what's going to happen is you're going to do the right thing and then feel good. If you're an emotional driven person, you're just going to do when it feels good or convenient. See, a character driven person, are you actually committed driven, are actually committed driven? So if there's a commitment that has to be made, they commit to it and then they drive on. That's their drive, is because I've put my line in the sand. I put my foot right here, and then I push through, and that's how I did that. So that's one way of looking at it. Here's the other thing: emotion driven people are convenient driven. So they're like, well, you know what? I'm busy. I'm an excuse, a lie, or whatever. And it could be small, it could be big. It doesn't really matter. But here's the reality of it: it isn't actually going to be a worth of anything because they're not going to be doing anything. So a character driven person is going to be making principle based decisions. Well, emotional driven person is going to make the most popular decision. Well, I'm in this place, and well, the people don't know what they don't want because they don't know what's truly available. Well, guess what? I'm not telling them everything that's available to them. And because this is what the people want, this is what the people are going to get. I'm just going to follow suit and just whatever. No, it just shouldn't work like that. See, here's the thing. What happens is you cannot be making the popular decisions all the time. There's choosing your battles, there's holding your cards, we were talking about in the previous weeks, and how to hold your cards close in a discerning manner. You don't exactly reveal everything because you don't understand. I'll never understand everyone's intentions. I'll never understand fully everyone's true motives. I can't say that they've always been pure because I can guarantee it's costed me severely, costed my family severely in more ways than I could ever initially imagine, but this is where I'm at. So it is what it is. Life's given me a real wild deck of cards, but you know what I can say? There's still a few more aces. There's still a few more jokers in it. There's still a few more kings, queens, and jacks in there. The reality is that if a character-driven person is actually going to be going down a path where they're actually showing true foundational based solid decision making that is actually going to be allowing them to say, hey, I'm going to let action do the controlling and not the attitude. See, attitude is everything, but here's the thing: you have to follow with action. Instead of letting attitude control the action, you let action control the attitude. Feel the accomplishment after you've completed it. See, character-driven people will actually let action control the attitude, whereas emotion-driven people will let attitude control the action. Instead, you could also look at it as a character-driven person also being able to create momentum, which is probably one of the most difficult things to do alongside culture. It's very difficult to change a culture of an organization, especially if it's negative, toxic, or unproductive and ineffective. So when it comes to emotional driven people, they just see it, then I'll believe it. Well, it doesn't work like that. How can you ever think that's ever going to work? If I were to explain how life has kind of given things to me in a certain sense, I just said, you know what, I'm just not going to give up. Am I where I'm at? Am I where I'm at as a final destination? Not even close. I didn't even reach where I'm not even happy where I'm at, to be honest. In fact, I'm actually backwards in some areas, and others I'm actually very much ahead. So taking all things into consideration, this is actually quite an interesting experiment, if you want to call it, because the most important lesson of leadership is going to be our next segment. Okay. And so that'll be in our part 10 series. And this specific lesson, I would probably have to say, speaks to me maybe a little bit more than the others. Why? Because it's hitting home even to myself. So when we look at the big scheme of things, there will never be a perfect time to do something or even a perfect place. You just got to step up and do it. So until next week, the most important lesson of leadership, part 10. I think this will be the very last one of our series on this one. In fact, we'll call it be back at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, work hard, stay humble.